Oh, it's well said that Ella Fitzgerald wouldn't be signed by a contract because she wasn't the best looking woman.
Okay.
She wasn't slick.
Exactly.
She couldn't be marketed. Sarah Vaughan wouldn't get a contract. So it's look. I just wonder, even in the classical world, we pride ourselves, or we look at upon history with great derision at the way Mozart was treated, how badly he was treated. I don't think we'd treat him any differently if he.
That's exactly what I think. For example, when you read the accounts of his life, you see this desperate struggle that he was having, trying to fit in. He was running around like a madman, trying to beg people, like, can I please teach you? That was a big part of his existence.
Yeah, and still the same,
trying to get subscribers and trying to sell himself. And I mean, you're talking about Schubert. Schubert is another example. When he died, his assets were valued at 1/5 of his debts. But his artistic bequest is beyond calculation.
It's so true.
I'm wondering when we're going to stop treating artists this way. I'm wondering, now that we've got platforms like the internet, which democratizes information, which enables artists to get messages across the world in a way that's easy for other people to access. I wonder if we're now living in a time when we can transcend that stage of dismissing the most important artists of our time.
Yeah, well, I think that's true. I think we're living Glenn Gould's dream at one level with the internet.
I think so too.
He would have loved it.
He would have loved it, yes.
I think with the caveat that I still think that people need an official stamp to be placed on something before they really take it seriously.
Yeah, sure.
Because also everybody's on YouTube.
That's
doing
true.
This kind of thing. So in order to differentiate between someone who's really good and someone who's not really good, also relies on the discerning powers and abilities of the listener, and I guess their ability not to be swayed by mythology in a way, because advertising is a form of, it's creating mythology, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
It's saying, look, this is really, really great, and then you find, okay, the next person will subscribe to this thing, this artist or film, because so and so said it. So so there's a kind of a tribal mentality that goes on. Now, when I can actually predict what a critic is going to write about an artist, even before I've even heard the concert or the CD, when I can predict it, that the art criticism has fossilized as far as I'm concerned, and has ceased to exist. Any kind of forward movement or creativity has stopped, because it's become this thing that's written in stone. It's like this beautiful butterfly that's been captured, killed, framed and stuck on a wall. Right. That's not its purpose.
Sure. Yeah. So, one of the things that we talked about before we came in today was that you didn't want me to call you a jazz pianist. Why not?
Because that job description, says more about what I'm not rather than what I am.
Can you expound?
Well, okay. Say you're a classical pianist. You're called a pianist. Most professional classical pianists today don't compose, they don't arrange, they don't improvise, but yet they have their full stripes. They're called a pianist.
That's right.
Okay? Whereas a jazz pianist, and also there are varying, like not all jazz pianists are the same. I hate it when people say, oh, you do improv. well, what does that mean? You know, like you walk on two legs, that person walks on two legs, you know. And you know, I swim badly, but then you've got Ian Thorpe who swings marvellously, you know, like and not in terms of standard, but also the nature of what different jazz musicians do differs from one to the next, or at least that's the idea. But you know, like the kind of person, the kind of musician that interests me is not necessarily a person who, a jazz musician who's just interested in playing jazz. You know, they're generally very boring to me.
Right.
That's why I love people like Chick Corea and Keith Jarrett to a certain extent, to a lesser extent.
Like Goethe has said, if you don't know the last 4,000 years of history, then you're living from hand to mouth. And I sometimes wonder that myself about certain jazz guys, like, because they're so steeped in a culture which is only really 100 years old.
Yeah.
Right. Whereas I guess it's an intrinsic part of a classical musician's education to become familiar with it, at least 900 years.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm still living from hand to mouth here because.
But the thing about jazz, the whole, these guys were, especially in the 1920s, the 30s, they tried to emancipate music from the clutches of dogma.
Right. That
they criticised classical musicians for clinging on to.
Yeah.
And now they're creating their own dogma.
Okay.
That are, I don't know, especially people who are into, bebop, and there are certain sacred cows in jazz. You're allowed to, not like Oscar Peterson. You're allowed to not like Errol Garner. You're allowed to not like Bill Evans. But you say one word against Thelonious Monk.
Right. You're a dead man.
You're a dead man. Not that I want to, but I just use that as an example that there are no-go zones.
Sure.
And as soon as that happens, you know that in classical music or with contemporary composers, there are certain things you're allowed to say and certain things you're not. And as soon as that's the death of art as far as I'm concerned.
I was really struck by the way that I couldn't predict what you're going to do in your improvisation.
That's because I never know myself.
Right.